Now to new fallout in the wake of the release of the Epstein files. The Justice Department striking a deal with attorneys for survivors who say their lives were turned upside down when the DOJ failed to redact some of their personal information from the files and then posted those files to the DOJ's website. Attorney Pam Bondi has acknowledged mistakes. The Attorney General saying the department has now taken down several thousand documents that may have included victims' information. Let's bring in MS Now Legal Affairs reporter Fallon Gallagher, Eric Fudali, who represents several Epstein survivors, and former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger. So, Fallon, what do we know about this deal that was apparently reached between the survivors' attorneys and the Justice Department?
Yeah, this hearing was supposed to be happening this hour, and then late last night, Judge Berman issued a single-page order canceling the hearing, saying that the survivors' attorneys and DOJ reached a deal to resolve those privacy issues in an expeditious and meaningful way to prevent future harm. There were very few details in that order, and we have not seen anything official from the Department of Justice, but we do know what the survivors were asking for. Their lawyers had submitted a letter earlier this week saying that they needed the Justice Department to resolve these issues and remove any identifying information. You'll remember that there were a plethora of material of names, photos, other identifying information that was not redacted properly. They have a list of 350 survivors' names, and they want that material corrected. So they have asked for it to be taken down and fixed, or they've asked for the entire website to come down. Now, we know that DOJ, in a separate letter, has said that they have removed several thousand files, pages, and that they're going through and correcting those redactions, and I would presume that they will be back up. But again, we don't know the specifics of this deal. We just know that the judge was appeased enough to cancel today's hearing.
And so, Eric, you know, it was the victims, the survivors, who worked so hard to get these files released. They wanted transparency, they want accountability, and they trusted that their personal information and privacy would be protected. And now the files are released, but they say their lives have been turned upside down again. What are your clients experiencing?
Well, that's absolutely what's going on. You know, I'm not sure if it's intentional or it's incompetence, but what is very clear is that the DOJ has disregarded the well-being of the survivors. One of my clients was named 538 times in the latest release of Epstein files.
Wow.
538 times. Of course, we immediately alerted the DOJ. As of yesterday, it was down to 2 times, but 1 time is too many times. It is unacceptable. They have had so much time to do this. And this is just simple redactions. It's just redacting names. This is not rocket science. And the whole reason they're claiming that they're basically late, they violated the law and they were almost a month and a half late to reveal these documents, is they needed to redact. Right. But what were they doing for this time? 538 times is just beyond comprehension and incompetence.
One person.
One person. And she was not the only one of my clients whose name was released unredacted in these files. It's incompetence, and it's just unacceptable.
Barrett, the judge writes that he is, quote, pleased but not surprised that the DOJ and survivors' attorneys were able to resolve this on their own. But just how bizarre is it to have gotten to this point where a judge nearly needed to get involved in protecting sex abuse victims because of such an apparent failure of the Justice Department?
I mean, redacting victim information is not an issue that is unique to this Epstein investigation. This is something that federal prosecutors deal with in every case involving sensitive victims, involving child victims, or involving sex trafficking, period. This is something that DOJ attorneys know how to do. They do it in every case that involves these kind of victims. And the fact that this information was included is so tragic for the victims because you can't unring that bell. You can't get that information out of the digital sphere. I'm glad they reached the agreement, but DOJ was facing some real risks there, both for potential civil lawsuits down the road from people who had had their information compromised and potentially some sort of contempt of court. So DOJ was certainly in no position to fight this, and it's promising that they reached a settlement as quickly as they did with the victims' attorneys.
I mean, some survivors say they've been getting death threats after their private information was left unredacted. So you can't put that toothpaste back in a tube. The New York Times found dozens of uncensored images of naked women with their faces visible. The Associated Press found multiple incidents where names and faces were obscured in one document only to be left in another. I spoke with one survivor who said there were documents where her dog's name was redacted, but hers wasn't. I mean, Barrett, some of these survivors actually believe these sloppy redactions may have been intentional. And I heard Eric say, you know, was it incompetence or was it intentional? What do you make of it?
I mean, it's hard for me, even knowing what we know, it's hard for me to get my head around the fact that this is intentional, but this is just incompetence at the highest level. I mean, talk about re-traumatizing the victims, to have nude photographs of them on the internet for everybody to see, is just, the Justice Department has just really let them down in an investigation that was ostensibly supposed to be about them, supposed to be about trying to get justice for them. They are the ones that really have been most harmed by the rollout of these documents. And I understand that there was millions of pages of documents. That's hard. But what we do as Justice Department lawyers is hard. This is sort of the highest level of what they should be doing. And they should be able to have the competence and the carefulness and the thoughtfulness to do it right.
A reporter asked President Trump yesterday about mentions of Elon Musk and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in these files, and he just sort of brushed it off. Take a look.
I have a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, it would have been major headlines.
I think that they should be more transparent.
The fact that they thought they released too much. I heard that. And you tell me something else. No, I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Really, now that nothing came out about me, other than there was a conspiracy against me, literally by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
Eric, of course, names in the files doesn't necessarily implicate any criminal wrongdoing, but what message does what we just heard from the president send to survivors?
It's re-victimizing, and that's what this entire process has been, is just true re-victimization of the survivors. They have fought so hard for this. They've fought for decades, really, to get any semblance of justice against Jeffrey Epstein and his, and the people who have facilitated his abuse. And they've got nothing. As we sit here, Jeffrey Epstein was able to, kill himself under federal custody. Ghislaine Maxwell is now in a minimum security resort style prison. Finally, it looks like they're going to get some semblance of accountability with the release of these files. And then I have to give them a call and say, oh, by the way, remember those files? You're named 538 times in them. It's just unfathomably re-victimizing. It's unfathomably incompetent. And there's just such disregard for the survivors there in those statements from Donald Trump and the statements from Todd Blanche and the entire way this has been handled. And it's really shameful.
Fallon, Melinda Gates is now speaking out about her ex-husband, Bill Gates, being mentioned in these files as well. How does he fit into all this?
Yeah, this is odd. There are a number of emails where Jeffrey Epstein appears to be emailing himself. And in these emails, he makes claims that are unverified about Bill Gates's sexual relationships and his marriage. And now, as you said, Melinda Gates, his ex-wife, is speaking out. I want you to take a quick listen.
Whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me. Well, and I am so happy to be away from all the muck that was there. I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad.
And again, there are no context, and those claims are not corroborated in any way. But at this point, a Gates spokesperson is saying that the claims are completely false and absurd.